And now, my friends, you've asked me what makes me sad still, and why my brow is darkened like the clouds upon the hills.
Salt Lake City, the state capital of Utah, is home to about 200,000 residents and is located within a metropolitan region known as the Wasatch Front. The Wasatch Front contains a total of 2.6 million residents in a collection of growing communities such as Ogden, Provo, West Jordan, and Sandy. About 80% of the entire state of Utah's population is found in this region alone.
So the saddle might ride easy for Lenore, his little friend.
Surrounded by the Wasatch Mountains to the east, the Oquirrh Mountains to the west, and a multitude of natural spectacles like the Great Salt Lake and Mount Timpanogos, Salt Lake City and the Wasatch Front have become a desirable place to settle down, find work, and enjoy a high quality of living.
Lenore then saw her danger and turned her pony's face.
Salt Lake City serves as the central business, legislative, and commercial hub for the Wasatch Front. It is the largest industrial banking center in the United States, supported by large companies such as UBS and Merrill Lynch. Other important industries include government, technology, and even the Church of the Latter-day Saints.
And reached her with a bound.
In the past decade alone, Salt Lake City has seen an almost 8% increase in their total population. The city has seen an influx of residents interested in its outdoorsy vibe and recreational opportunities, a way of life that received exposure after late 20th century Ski Utah advertising campaigns that birthed the term greatest snow on earth. Furthermore, Salt Lake City hosted the 2002 Winter Olympics, forcing previous conceptions about the city, and really Utah as a whole, as a dull, ideologically backwards, Mormon-riddled locus to quickly evaporate, as those watching the Olympics took note of the innately gorgeous scenery in a growing region. After consistently losing its populace throughout the 1970 to 1990 census counts, Salt Lake City and its surrounding communities began to see a steady increase of citizens moving in. The Wasatch Front as a whole, which carried a population of about 490,000 in the mid-20th century, has absolutely boomed in growth and is now home to nearly 2.6 million. The increased population has assisted the Wasatch Front in its continual industrial, economic, and structural growth. However, this has led to an unprecedented rise in property value and elevated demands for housing and added amenities. In recent years, the median price for a single-family home in Salt Lake City has skyrocketed to $490,000, more than $115,000 above the U.S. average. Once quaint suburbs have seen even more drastic price increases. Draper, at one point a prison town, now holds a median home value of over $600,000. Longtime residents of Salt Lake City have begun to suffer financially at the hands of high housing demands, as rent has increased with rising land values. Gentrification within the city, such as the construction of modern high-rise apartments near Temple Square, has compelled city planners to demolish poorer neighborhoods in an effort to gratify those moving in. Mobile homes in the Salt Lake neighborhood of Centerville, the only affordable housing for some, are being demolished to build $400,000 townhomes. Low-income residents in these areas are merely left to fend for themselves at the prospect of being evicted and thrust into homelessness. Activism and calls for change in zoning laws mostly fall on deaf ears, while incessant urban sprawl within the entire Wasatch Front region continues. With gentrification and exorbitant housing prices in mind, it can be argued that Salt Lake City is experiencing revanchism, the idea of gentrification as revenge, as gentrified areas were typically once inhabited by a heavy minority population. At this point, housing in the city is best suited for middle-class families rather than underrepresented minority groups. Although Salt Lake City has always been predominantly white, the Hispanic population has slowly dwindled over the previous decade, while the African American population has mostly stagnated. Without affordable housing, these groups have either resorted to homelessness or have fled the city altogether, while those moving into Salt Lake from places like California or New York now inhabit gentrified condos that sit upon minorities' old residences. At the same time, the white flight that has taken place in Salt Lake City also adds to the detrimental effects of gentrification. The percentage of whites living in urban areas of the region have steadily declined since the turn of the century as these groups moved to the suburbs. As a result, the downtown Salt Lake area became more of an entertainment and commercial district for more well-off members of the population. The Rio Grande neighborhood, which is located just west of downtown, is the current site of a mass cleanup of the homeless. After the city's homeless shelter in Rio Grande shut down, police began to heavily patrol the area while city officials began instituting defensive architecture and plans for revitalization in the form of apartments and office buildings. This only serves as a band-aid on Salt Lake City's deep wound of homelessness, something that is further complicated by continuous gentrification occurring within the city. There is no denying that Salt Lake City provides a high quality of life while also maintaining a big city feel. On the surface, it is a clean-looking city, contains a lump sum of amenities, has a stable economy, and is surrounded by a plethora of scenic sights. However, considering the massive increase in population and the subsequent rise in property values, the city's push towards reaching a high aesthetic principle has displaced a number of poor, underrepresented citizens through practices of revanchist gentrification. If Salt Lake City continues to fail in its capability to provide affordable housing and quell increased gentrification rather than simply concealing the problem, the amount of people living on the streets will surely continue to rise over the next couple of years.